sir. Hello.
What's going
Um,
on, man?
dude, so good, so good. Uh, I'm just excited because I feel like this has been a long time coming. I've been trying to get you on here for like 3 weeks, so I'm glad we're here. I'm glad we made it.
I know, man. It's been a minute. So yeah, I'm excited to be on. I mean, geez, I just liked your Facebook page today, so I gotta watch some of these interviews. These look good.
Yeah, man. It's
Thanks
a
for
lot of fun.
having me.
We've had no problem. You're the second SPS person technically we've had on because Fido, that legendary human being,
Love
was
feed.
on a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, man, dude, excited to have you on. Um, Honestly, this has just been a really cool experience. But let's just get right into it. Tell me a little bit about. Well, I'm going to share and brag about you, hearing a little bit about your accomplishments. You sold 3 summers, foundation guy. You sold with Aaron Schaefer, under Aaron Schaefer.
Yep. Yeah. Aaron
And
Shaver. Yep, you got it.
when was your first summer?
My first summer, 2011. I was a sophomore in college. So yeah, first summer, I went to Central Michigan University. So I worked with like Dylan Barr. Let's
Yeah,
see, Maurice Howell, Kyle Peters, for some folks that
homies.
are watching that know these guys. But yeah, 2011 was when I first came across or Southwestern. Yeah.
And how did you tell, like, what happened? How do you go from I'm just minding my business in Central Michigan to knocking on a door at 7:30 in the morning a couple weeks
Yeah, man.
in May?
Gosh, honestly, probably very similar to a lot of people's stories that are on here. It's like, the last thing you ever thought you'd ever do is be a door-to-door salesman, right?
Yeah.
So, for me, I was originally going to CMU. I was like, oh, I want to be like a doctor. It'd be really cool to be, orthopedic surgeon. Quick
Yeah.
side note, not going to go into this story, but tore my ACL, got really into that whole thing. And then I took biology and I was like, oh, dude, this sucks. I was looking at the advanced bio class. I was like, this is god awful. I definitely got weeded out in the weed out class. And so I switched to business and yeah, I'm in class and all of a sudden, I get a call from someone and I'm just wondering, I'm like, listen to the voicemail. It's this guy named Maurice Howell. And he's like, hey, how's it going? Like your buddy, Dan Enzer, he's sitting next to you in class. I interviewed him for this internship and he thinks you'd be a really good fit and you should totally come meet with me, call me back. And I'm like, oh, cool. Dan, this guy, told Maurice about me and, whatever. And so I give Mo a call back and I'm just naive, dumb college kid. And I'm like, oh, cool internship. Yeah, dude, I'll come down and talk to you. So met him at the Grand Traverse Pie Company, and I guess the rest is history. And decided to come aboard. And I remember when I told my parents about it.
I was
First thing,
gonna ask how'd that go.
no way, you're not going to do that, So, but Maurice met with them, and you know how it goes. If you're full time, meet with the parents, have the
Yep.
parents coffee, and yeah, they were just like, yeah, let them go.
So you, like, the parent work there was huge, but was there a part of you that was like, if my parents tell me I can't do this, I'm not gonna go? Or were you like, fuck it, whatever they say, I'm gonna go anyway?
Dude, honestly, I don't even think I knew what I was getting myself into. Like, I literally think back to that moment and I was just like, oh, this sounds cool. Maurice is awesome. This guy's so like on fire for what he's doing. And he tells me he can make me like become this like badass. I don't even know what it meant, right? He's like, just work with me. You'll crush it and you'll make all this money. And I just said, I want to be like that guy, right? So I really don't even know what I knew what I was doing. I mean, sure, after we got through training, I was like, okay, like we're actually knocking on doors.
This is happening.
It was like one of those things, but I had to find my first summer, I had to find a host family, too, like knocking. And
Yep.
that was fun. Like that wasn't that crazy, but yeah, it was just like one of
Same.
those things where you just like do it and you don't really know what you're getting into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt the same way when you started, but
Yeah, for
you
sure I
don't really
did.
know until you do it.
Yeah, well, and for me it's interesting because I actually got recruited Wednesday of finals week of May. Like, I got selected Wednesday, and then Thursday final, Friday night final. We left for the book field on Saturday. I had no idea. I had no clue. So I understand that feeling for sure. You're just like, oh, because you think, and the managers try their best to paint the picture, but it's until you get out there, it's kind of hard to like really see it, which is why I think it's so good. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
What
it's
what
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, what part of the year was this? Was this for you? Was this like in the fall and you had time to prepare, or was it like more towards the end of this second semester for you?
So it was fall, man. Because I remember going to trainings, with your manager, where you like practice this sales script. They're just trying to get you to memorize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had, going into the whole beginning of like the year to get ready for the summer. But
Yeah.
man, you're taking me like way back. I don't even like remember these memories are
Yeah.
those are still there. Dang.
Yeah.
I
This
just
is
remember going to like parent coffees and all that stuff. I mean, just yeah, dude, nuts.
I'm
Nuts.
glad. I've gotten used to not really talking much to guests before they come on and kind of have this happen, because it's much more exciting for you as you're kind of rediscovering that memory than versus like if you had a bunch of notes written down of what what's going to happen. This is more genuine, and it's made for better entertainment, I think. So
Yeah.
that's good. So how was that first summer? Tell me about like what did you, I mean, you went in as this kid of like, oh, this is what we're doing. Who's Chad in August?
Yeah, man. So my first summer. I mean, I was not a I was your classic like guy that had a bunch of potential, didn't
Mm,
live up to it first summer. Same thing with the second summer, and then my third summer, like I actually like, did the thing, right? So my first
yeah,
summer was more of a I tried to reinvent the wheel. I was like, dude, why the heck would I knock during the day? Like nobody's home, kind of a
I see.
thing. And so like 5 p.m. rolled around, I went and knocked, right? And I still hit Sizzler my first summer. And so I worked, I was pretty off schedule. Like, ask Aaron Schaefer how many 0 days I had my first summer. I probably had a total of 30 0 days my first summer.
A
As a,
third of the summer.
yeah, yeah. Like I literally, dude, yeah, no joke. I mean, I was that
Yeah,
off schedule. I mean, it
almost
was
half.
for me, it was like, dude, it was just this crazy, like, I just was like, why would I knock during the day? No one's home. And so, but then there was also part of me that was like, this is something that was like really hard, for me, I've naturally just been good at like the things that I've always tried, right? Sports, you name it, whatever. Like naturally just have like a little bit of like that average, this person's like decent. And then
Yeah,
selling book, there's like shit, I really have to work, you know.
it
And I
sucks.
think
Yeah,
for me, it like a little bit of like an ego hit of like, fuck, dude, like, you know, I
yeah,
definitely don't want to get denied all day and then like not have a result at the end. And I didn't part of me
yeah.
like didn't really want to try my hardest to see like myself fail, you know. And that
Whoa,
was that's
that's
like going
deep.
deep, right? Right. So that was
That's
scary.
getting deep with Chad at Aleo. I was gonna say Aleo for whatever reason. Aleo.
Hey, yeah, Aleo.
Oh, dude. Holy shit, dude. So then hold on. Let's talk about then that third summer. I always prefer talk about summers where you kind of like figured it out, because that's more interesting, I feel like. And also if there's like a first year about to be a first year listening in on this, because there probably might be someday, like
Yeah.
just know it's worth it. But this is a little bit more raw, right? But what happened when what clicked for you? Like when you said your third summer, you kind of really figured it out. What would you attribute that? And also, where did you sell through these summers? So where,
Yeah.
and then what happened?
Yeah. So first summer I was in, man, where was I? Virginia? I mean, Minnesota was my first summer. Virginia was my second. So I sold just outside of
Oh,
Minneapolis, Burnsville. I did not
okay.
have the bet, like, maybe they say turf doesn't matter. I mean, I had a pretty like lower middle class turf. Um, Second summer I sold in Virginia, just outside of DC, Stafford. Um, and then my third summer I was in Houston, Texas. So Katy. And that was like the
Wow.
summer that that things took off. So to give you guys kind of like just a brief history, first summer hit Sizzler like super off schedule. Second summer, same thing. I went into second summer. I recruited like a group of my best friends, and like they all came out to do it, and like I worked really hard, and then I got off schedule, and I kind of did the same thing, but I still like doubled my production. But I was pretty off schedule my second summer too. And it was funny because one of the guys we work with now at SPS, Josiah, when was I talking to him about this? But it was a while back, and I was like, yeah, I was really off schedule my second semester. He's like, dude, I had no idea. So I did my job, right? As a manager, like, you know, he's saying like, don't let your first years know. So like he had no idea that I
Oh
was off schedule
my
my second summer. But
god.
but but here's kind of the interesting thing is going into the third summer, it was like my senior year of college, and like in my mind I was like, okay, I'm only going to do this while I'm in school. I'm not going to, sell books for
Mhm.
my entire life. And part of me, like, I made this promise to myself, like going to my third summer, I was like, dude, I am not going to do this thing and not get the quote unquote Southwestern experience, right? The real experience. Cause I felt like this
Right.
feeling of like a little bit of jealousy. When people like I knew worked their hardest and they just talked about like how it changed their life and it like paved the way for like all these different things. And one
Whoa.
of my best friends now, Dylan Barr, his second summer, he was like the triple growth guy, like crushed it, like came out, made like
Right.
20 grand or something his second summer.
Shout out to Dylan. He's going to be on here in like 2 weeks. So that's
Yeah, came
exciting.
out, made like
Cool.
20 grand his second summer. And I'm like
Yeah.
a little bit jealous because of that. But then also like he just did exactly what they said, like, work 8 to 10 hours a day, knock on give 30 demos or something.
Yep.
Was that what it was? Get 10, 20 sit downs. I don't remember what the exact stuff was, but
It's 20 sit downs, 30 demos, 14-hour days. So like
just
seven
finished
to
selling books.
seven to nine at
Retail
least.
last summer. Is that what you're but but man, like he just did all the things. And like so I was like secretly I told myself I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a Southwestern bookman until I literally just do the job every day. I don't take days off, hours off. Like I literally just feel like I gave it everything I had. So I know what my potential was, right? So yeah, my third summer getting to there, that was the summer I set big goals and like everybody laughed at me. Like Dylan laughed at me, my buddy Will, everyone laughed at me. I mean, I was like, I'm gonna sell 8,000 units this summer and like whatever, I'm gonna be the number one rep for Michigan. Everyone's like, yeah, right. Like you didn't even make top 100, like, all this stuff. And so my third summer, I mean, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Sold like just shy of 7,000 units. Was
Jeez.
was gonna sell. Yeah, and that was like 2,300 to like 7,000 or something, whatever the number was.
Jump, bro.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I literally stayed on schedule. I just was like, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna keep
So,
working really hard. And like, I mean, I learned the products too really well, right? But I did exactly, I literally was like, I'm gonna do exactly what they say.
and I'm gonna
That
do
way
it.
I know what my potential is, right?
Well,
And I had this drive too. I mean, for me, it was kind of like my goal is being like Maurice and I talked about it a lot. I want to be like the silent assassin. And so my mom was like,
yep.
no one knows I'm coming. And then all of a sudden, I'm like top 20 or something like that
Yeah.
in the company out of nowhere,
Yep.
which I got that, whatever. I thought it was a cool thing for me. But my first time,
Dude,
James
hell yeah.
etched in the inside of my suit, silent assassin, but yeah, it
That's
was like
dope.
yeah, it was just it was a huge thing. I mean, man, I just wanted to prove it to myself, right? Of just like, hey, just do what they tell you and have a great attitude and focus on the controllables and you'll crush it. And so
Yeah.
and I just always knew inside of me that I could always be really, really good. I mean, my second summer I had like flashes of like 250 unit days, and then like I'd get off schedule
Oh shit.
4 days straight. You know what I mean? So it's just like stuff like that, where it's like I knew what I was capable of, but I just couldn't get over that like, work in the like let the hard work turn into the result, not just the skill set. Because I always just relied on like finesse, right? And like what
Right.
I thought that I could just do naturally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I very much understand that. Dude, wow, that's a wild story. Well, and it's just the idea of like, because it goes deeper. It kind of goes back to what you said at the beginning, where you're like you were afraid to like succeed or like try your hardest and still fail. That's like such a deep. I feel like more people have that problem than the actual fear of failure. Is just finding out that you did your best and you sucked at something that you
Dude,
want, like worked for it.
100%, man. Yeah, that's I mean, I maybe I don't know what that's from, but it's just like when you have that like natural ability of just being good at stuff, like you don't really want to you're not used to being bad at stuff, and my
Yeah.
fear was like, what if I really gave this my all and I just sucked, and I didn't want to like believe that, right? So I think
Yeah.
part of me also like naturally just like, nah, like I could be good if I wanted to, like that type of a vibe. But
Yeah.
man, it was like it was huge for me just to like realize it wasn't all about like just skill, right? It was about like working your ass off and like doing the things that you're supposed to do, having a good attitude. I mean, dude, I preach that stuff to anyone when it comes to sales. It's like attitude, effort, like just literally the main stuff.
And this is good if like a first year is listening to this, is because like they're getting it from and people in general, like you're getting this from a third perspective of like, you have no incentive to tell me this, you have no incentive to
Yeah.
share this wisdom, but it is this wisdom, right? It is this idea of like, people think there's like some sauce or like some secret like switch, or like maybe that somebody else has a better script than you do, or sales talk than you do. But no, it's literally just have a good attitude and bust it.
Put in the work. Yeah. I mean,
And
literally.
that's it. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it still applies in like all the sales jobs I've ever done. I mean, it's interesting because, sales is such a transfer of emotion. You come into a sales call,
yeah,
you knock on a door and you're down, or like that, excuse me, this beer, man. You knock on a door and the person before last 10 or whatever, they're mean or rude or whatever, and you bring that to the next house.
mm-hmm.
Same thing with like if you're in a rut, like in just an outbound sales role, or you're an account exec or whatever, and you just bring that energy, like, man, they're going to mirror whatever it is. Like something's just going to feel off, and people aren't stupid. We've had enough conversations with other people in the world that we know, like when the vibe is good and when it's bad, so,
Yeah.
I mean, man,
Ooh,
I mean,
I've
imagine
never
being,
thought about that.
yeah, I mean, imagine being at the door when someone comes to your door and they're not, you can tell they don't really want to do it. They're just forcing themselves to be there. Like, you're not going to be like, yeah, come in my house and I'm going to give you $1,000 check for all these books. Sometimes I think people
Yeah.
bought those books because they liked you. I don't really think it was because they really, really honestly believed that they were the best books ever, but like they liked you enough, and then they saw that they could help in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can think of plenty of people that, that you just, and it was just, I can think of people who specifically told me that they bought because they wanted their kids to be like me, like hardworking and honest, and just all these things that she saw in what I was doing when I was feeling genuinely like there to help, you
Yeah.
know, and that all circled, it was a cycle. Like you said, a transference of emotion where it's like, I'm here to help you. And she's like, I'm here to help you. And I know this helps you if I buy this. And so I'm going to buy this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super good. Damn. Check out the big brain
But
on Chad.
dude, here's the crazy part, right? So I mean, when I mean, I don't know how many people have done. I was scheduled, then I crushed it my third. So, but I would say like that's not the normal thing, right? So if you're new, like that's not normal, right? Go out and like don't do that. Just go give it everything you got your first summer so you can succeed and maybe be a 10,000 unit producer in your third summer or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, there was something like, there's just something like burning inside me that said like, you got more. And so like the best advice I would give to someone that's new, is like believe that and push yourself and go for it, because you're never going to know unless you try, right? You're never going to know. And
Yeah.
man, I can't imagine if you and I were having this conversation today and I was like, man, I wish I would have that third summer. I wish I would have just given it my all. Right now I have like no regrets of that summer, right? I know I
Yeah.
put everything out on the field, right? And that's how I wanted to leave. So to get to that, I mean, when I left, which you probably want to ask about that, I'm sure, but
Yeah. I was going to say, what happened there? Why'd you leave?
yeah, so it was my, like, after college was done and whatever, college was over. So in my mind I was like, all right, like Southwestern was this college experience. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna do like the whole, like, I did like the recruiting in school stuff, but I was like, I'm not gonna be a corporate recruiter. I don't want to be a DSM. And so I just kind of cold turkey cut it, and I was like, all right, I got what I wanted. I feel like I'm on top of the world. Boom, let's go. Get a sales job. And Maurice, if you're listening to this, man, you're gonna laugh because I've told you this already. But part of me, Maurice, that guy, man, badass, recruited me, crushed it. I mean, he was there for a long time, like 8 to 10 years. And like part of me was like, I don't want to be, in the same position at that age, still trying to sell books. And I was like, I gotta get out of
Mm.
here and go build something else, for myself. Like my passion wasn't DSM. My passion wasn't, be the
Mm.
next KJ or whatever.
Mhm.
I just had a different vision, right?
Yeah, that's fair. So
So
then you just said peace. And then so
And I
how
got
did
pushback
you?
from my DSM about it. So I had to sell them on why I'm not selling.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So this is actually sometimes a question I ask, and if you
It's like
don't,
a bad breakup for any of you Southwestern alum out there. You know how it goes. It's like the hardest
yeah,
conversation. I'm not selling anymore.
yeah, it's a breakup
Don't hate
conversation.
me, man.
Well,
It's
would
not you,
you?
it's me.
It's if there was one thing about that experience, not just like the DSM experience of the end, but like in general of your, what would you change, or like, well, what could have been better, like constructive feedback, or for Southwestern as a whole? Do you have any of that?
Um, I mean, what could have been better? I don't know if there's anything that could have been better. I mean, dude, they've been around for what, 100 and whatever years. They've got it to a science of what works. So I don't really know. I can say like this could have been better, but man, but I get it. Like, man, I empathize and I understand as a manager. Okay. So I guess like when I think of like what could have been better, right? Things that could have been better is like the way that they like recruited, right? Where it's like, you can't leave, you can't leave. Like it almost felt like culty, right? But I get it. I mean, like, man, if I was at DSM, like, and my livelihood was like based on like income that's made by these college kids, like, of course I don't want you to leave, right? So I
Yeah,
understand. I mean, when you're in it, you're like, you don't really care about me, you just care about my units, you know what I mean, or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But I think it's just such a gray area, and that's a dude being a DSM's got to be super tough,
Yeah, it's
especially.
hard. My brother's doing it, and it's hard.
It's like, man, where's the balance of like, I really do care about you, I want the best for you, but I also want the best for me and my family, right? Because that's
Yeah.
where they're wrestling all the time. So
Well,
I
and
that
with that,
that dynamic.
yeah, and to what you said, I agree, but I never looked at it from a DSM's perspective until my brother just went DSM, and this last summer, his team pushed, and during the pandemic, bro, he fucking killed it, um, and they're crushing. That team's crushing. That vibe is not as much anymore. It used to be before, like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 2015, like that time period, there was like this really bad bug of people having a hard time letting managers go. And anyway, that's changed a ton. But one of the things I did notice is the thing that my brother does a lot, and I feel like any DSM does this, and what makes it extra hard is when you see potential in a person that they don't see themselves, and that's why they quit. I feel like that's harder because there are people who should stay or
Yeah,
that need to stay
yeah,
that don't, and you're
yeah.
like, oh dude, you if you would have left after your second summer, think about like what would have happened, right? Some person had to, like, maybe, I mean, obviously it was your decision still to go do it, and you still were the one that went and did it, but like
Sure. Yeah.
at some point they were trying to keep you to like keep going, man, you got this. And there was part of a lot of, I genuinely believe in Aaron and KJ and Maurice, because I know them, like in their heart they saw you as that third summer Chad, or
Yeah.
maybe more even. And I see it in my brother, the way my brother like does it with like believes in his kids so much is pretty inspiring. It's pretty cool. So and I think it's hard when you believe in a kid like that and then they leave and you're like,
Dude,
man.
DSMs are like fantastic humans, man. Every time I see like someone that became a DSM or like someone I knew before they were a DSM, I'm just like blown away by like who they are from like who they were. It's just like, dude, just
Yeah.
like, I mean, you think about how good they are. Like they're so good at selling, but they're so good at connecting and motivating and like I mean, dude, completely night and day people.
Yeah, it's bananas.
It's cool. It's cool to see like, the people that become DSMs, like what, like, yeah, they're just
They're
all-star
badasses.
all-star humans, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
straight up. Yeah. So, all right, let's transition here. Let's talk about, shout out to Danny, by the way, my brother. You're a badass, bro. And his wife, Aisha. She's pretty cool. Um, she sold books too. They met. Um, anyway, so let's transition here. Let's switch gears. This is a good opportunity to say they are students at SPS. And so let's talk about what you're up to now. What are you, I know this obviously, but and maybe share a little bit about maybe how you got here, if you want. Talk about like between Southwestern to here, how'd you end up here, or maybe just one thing I would like you to include is like, how did your, especially that third summer experience, really help you with what you're doing now? Because I know what you do now, and you're a fucking badass, bro. And so, like, tell me about what happened to in what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I left Southwestern, had the bad breakup, right? With Aaron, and oh man, it's man, yeah, the bad breakup. And it wasn't that bad, but anyway,
I know
so
what you mean.
I got recruited at some like college fair by some guy that was like, come sell this. And so I went and did like this 3PL, like outside sales role. Um, did that for a little bit. And I just remember like in the back of my mind, like people like, my managers and like all these people being like, don't go. It's never going to be greener on the other side. Like these are like voices in my head. Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did that job and I did well at it. And I remember like 3 to 6 months in, I was like, I don't really like this anymore. And it wasn't about like the sales job. It was more about like the people, right? Because I mean, that's the one thing that people talk about Southwestern. It's like, man, I love the people, I love the growth mindset, and like
Yeah.
I love the leadership, and I love that people are real with me and tell me, good, bad, ugly, whatever. But it just didn't have that. And this place that I was at, I'm not gonna like say names, but it was I felt like I was in a college frat a little bit, um, like I got in trouble because I didn't want to go to a Friday night, like go out and drink with the office night in the summer, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, that's so dumb, and I went to like probably every single one before that, so I decided like kind of like that stuff and some other things. I was like, I'm gonna move on and do my own thing. And so I did what some Southwestern people do. I'm like, hey, let's go see what's going on when you reach out to Mr. Hans Schlegel or Shane Merrick and see what they can rally for me. So I called those guys, check out Tom James, and I really thought my future was there because I like love like suits and clothing and all that stuff. I was like, that'd be such a fun job, but I really didn't want to move to a big city. So just quick, plug. I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan right now. And I didn't want to leave. I liked the area. I was dating a cool girl at the time, so I decided to stick around. So like, what else can I do that can allow me to be like in my place? And so I come across this company called Family Heritage. All right. Some of you guys have heard of them. So I ended up doing that for just shy of 4 years. And, Aaron ended up coming in. We partnered together. We had a couple agencies. I had an office in Grand Rapids. He had one in Lansing. I think we had like 20 some agents. And eventually got to the point where I was like, I mean, that was cool. It was just like Southwestern for grownups is what it felt like,
Cool.
But 4 years and I was like, this isn't really my passion. They sell cool products, but it wasn't where I saw myself for the next 10, 10, 20 years. Right. Definitely like a job where like, if you want to do insurance, like you're in there for the long haul. Cause like you can get rich and do really well if you stick around. Right. So I decided to cut that loose. And yeah, I remember that was the second breakup I had with Aaron. Because he was like, we were partners at that point, but he let me go a lot different than that because I think he was just in a different place too, and it was a totally different type of relationship at that point. And then looking for the next thing, and I was thinking software sales, medical sales, and I really wanted this awesome software sales job, but the freaking manager was on vacation. So the interview process was like 3 weeks behind some other interview processes that I had. So I got this med device sale job I got offered. And then Dylan Barr, bring that guy back into play. Owe a lot to him. He got me connected with Chandler Bolt. So Chandler, quick story, met Dylan through Lead, which we had we started one and an RSO in Central Michigan. Chandler met Dylan. They just kept in touch. Dylan's like, hey, this guy, I don't really know him that well. He came to Lead one time with his girlfriend when he was visiting CMU. Check out his company. I don't know how big they are, but it seems legit. Dylan had no idea. Sent me this link. I was like, all right, cool, I'll do it. I interviewed, and yeah, I mean, Chandler's great. I mean, I just like really caught on to the vision, and I was scrolling through his stuff. I thought it was like a scam job at first, and then like I'm scrolling through, I'm like, oh dang, this guy's like on speaking panels with people that have been talking on Shark Tank, and like I'm like, this guy must be like the real deal. This is not like a scam. And so I was like, all right, cool, like I'll just keep interviewing. And then like they offered me a job, and so yeah, I ended up accepting. And that's how I got to self-publishing school. And so what I'm doing now, which is Andreas is here as well, is I mean, we teach people how to write, publish books, grow their business through now that they have the authority and the credibility of being a published author. So I do what they call high ticket sales. Okay. So that is where you're on the phone with somebody, you're a closer, You're selling like a product that's anywhere from like 5 to 15K in 45 minutes when they're on the phone with you, you know, and
Damn.
you're closing the deal. You know, it's like it's a one call close. It's just like Southwestern, right? You don't sell them in the house. They're not gonna call you and say, Andreas, my husband and I talked. These books, we just cannot not get them. Come back.
Yeah.
Here's $2,000. Never happens, right? We know that. So never leave your number. I mean, KJ used to say he used to leave numbers like 1-800-Bookman or whatever. So
Never leave your number.
yeah, because like no one calls you, you know. So it's the same thing with this job. I mean, you know, people don't come around. You know, it's just like you close them there. It's like your chances go way down. But I've been here ever since, and so I think I'm going on like 3 years. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, from experience, I can tell whoever's listening that you are a fucking bad ass at it, bro. It's fun to watch or listen to your calls, man. You're like studly. Cool stuff. So what would you say was the biggest things from Southwestern that I mean, or how much of your success here SPS would you say came from like your experience with Southwestern and like that connection? Talk about that. I mean, obviously the connection with Dylan, right? Because that's you ended up here. So that alone is like huge, but
yeah. You know. So, I mean, here's number one, man. I want to be a doctor to start, right? Because they made really good money. And I remember like my doctor, his name was Dr. Sawchuk, right? What a great name for a surgeon. And
what was that?
Just what'd you say?
What was that?
Dr. Sawchuk was his name. It's such a good name, right? For a surgeon.
Sawchuk? Holy shit. For a surgeon.
Oh. Yeah, dude. And he was the best, man. I love that guy. So I was like, I want to be like him. You know? And anyways, like I guess like to go back to the question of just like, man, like why did SPS do, or Southwestern do for you to get to where you are? I mean, man, I would have never even thought about sales, right? If I didn't like hear Southwestern. And the reason I bring up like the doctor thing is like sales is a way that you can get paid like a doctor without working like a doctor. Right. So I can say that again for any listeners. Like,
yeah, if you're taking notes, write that down.
You want to, write that down. That's really good, right? So if you want to get paid like a doctor, but you don't want to work the hours and have like the lifestyle that a doctor has, go do sales. It's way better. You make way more money and you have way more of a life, you know? And so Southwestern kind of paved that way. But man, I literally go back to like my first summer, like all the stuff I learned, man. And it's just like control the controllables. Like that's like something that's so ingrained in me. And I mean, like I preach that stuff to people that are been in sales for a long time, people that are just trying to get started. Like it is literally the difference maker, you know, for successful or not. I just believe it 100%. And sure, you can learn your product better, whatever, but you know, that is the thing.
Really? Well, I think that with the way that you are talking about with look at that conviction in that, I mean, it's you're living it, like you're walking the talk, you're talking the walk, right? Does it make sense? Like, isn't like you're saying this stuff, but the way you're saying it is also very evidenced by like you're selling me on it. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it's in your like DNA now. If it sounds like, I mean, if it's dope, cool, man.
Dude, I apply that stuff like. Man, I mean, I apply the stuff that I learned from Southwestern to, I mean, literally everything, whether it's, you know, there's some people that apply like Southwestern stuff to dating. Like they go up to girls at bar, they're like, it's a numbers game. She said no. Who's that? Like I don't apply that much to my life. But I mean, for me, man, it's more of just like, I mean, yeah, working out, whatever it is, you know, I mean, it really is a difference. It's really attitude and effort that just determines so much. And you know, since I've gotten into SPS, you know, I discovered more of like Tony Robbins and like all these things. And like, man, this is stuff that like these gurus like talk about, right? Attitude, effort, having absolute certainty and like believing in yourself. And man, like before anyone believes in you, like you got to believe in you, right? Because no one's going to believe in you until you believe in yourself, right? And so that's where that attitude piece comes into play. And then now you got to go put in the effort and go have all the hard knocks and go do all the things that other people aren't willing to do. If you have a good attitude and have fun doing it, like your trajectory will be insane, right? On your success and like where you're trying to go, right?
Yeah. So what would you say to like a kid who maybe it's the first summer or maybe it's like a B manager, like a second year book person who didn't have the best start, or your first year and you're like kind of unsure, maybe a little underconfident. Like what happened? Or maybe was there a specific moment or was it just kind of gradual, or do you even know of like where you because there was a switch, right? It had to have been like a switch where it turned on for you from number two to number three, right? Or how did that work?
Dude, I mean, it's like this desire, right? And so I talked a lot. I remember when I got to speak at like GRS and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but man, it's like this burning desire of like something that is just like, man, like I knew there was so much more, right? And so like there was that switch, but then it was also this reality of like, dude, like you got to grow up, right? And you have
Mm,
to realize that no one's gonna do it for you. No one's gonna like, I mean, it's the same way it is today, right? Like yeah, sure, you get a great relationship, your girlfriend, your spouse, whatever. They're gonna say, "Oh, it's okay, give me a hug," right? That's not gonna like fix anything, right? Like at the end of the
right.
day, like you have to figure it out on your own, and you're gonna have to own up to your mistakes, your challenges, and you're either gonna push through, and like they say in Southwestern, find a freaking way, or you're just gonna fold. Okay. And like I was in this place where I'm like, okay, am I gonna be like a find a way guy, or am I gonna be like a fold guy, and then just like be like the guy that had all this potential that just talks a big game but like never really did anything, right? And
Right.
so it's just like owning that up and like having real confidence, right? And I think that was something that I developed, like, you know, and this is like when I think back to who I was before, like that summer, it was like I had confidence, but it was like I didn't really have a lot of stuff to show for it, right? It was like I was confident because I always thought I could be good, but I wasn't confident because I was, and I didn't have like that natural, like, yeah, he's confident because like that guy knows his stuff, right? And
Mhm.
so it was just like that moment of like you just look inside yourself and you just say like you're either gonna do what you should be doing or you're not, and then you're gonna live with the result and be okay with it because that's what you chose to do, right? So like that was a
Mm,
switch, right? Becoming like the person that you actually want to become, right? And like the last thing
yeah.
I'll say on this real quick is one thing that really resonated with me. I don't know who shared it with us, but maybe you read the document in Southwestern that was like the person you are today, you are slowly
Now
becoming.
becoming. Yeah, yeah.
Like that is something that's always stuck in my mind, you know? And so just like thinking about like, man, how are my actions today affecting who I am 5, 10, 15 years from now, you know? So, and it's true. I mean, the person that I was that third summer, like, dude, that stuff has taken me like on a freaking ride. I mean,
Mm,
self-publishing school has taken me on a ride too. I mean, dude, I got to speak in front of 1,200 people, published a book, you know, I've gotten people like asking me to come work for them, like all this stuff. And then I started my real estate business and like all these things. And it's like, oh man, like all that stuff started. And like you don't realize it when you're there in the beginning, right? Of like what this is actually doing for you, you know?
yeah. I was just thinking this, and I don't know how much time you got, but might be time for the pony story. Or what do you think?
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Okay, just let me know when it's time for the
No,
pony
we're
story.
good. We're good. We're good.
Okay? I'm just leaving it in your court. I'm good to go for until whenever. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But what I was thinking when you just said that is, well, a couple things. But you're someday going to be, you're now becoming. Like that was one of the biggest things that stuck with me. But I was having the thought, who was I talking? My roommate's a bookman, and we were just talking about, you know, as you do, you talk shit. And, oh yeah, dude, this summer, whatever, you share stories, and like everything that I've done since Southwestern, like not just since my last summer, but since the first summer, including my other summers, that I've done well. If there's that many of them, there's not many, but they can all directly be attributed to something I learned in Southwestern that I used to accomplish that thing. Right. So for example, I do stand up, right? And I did good. I mean, I'm not going to have a Netflix special yet, but I'm good at it. Like people pay to watch me do stand up, which is a fucking bananas thing to think about. Like there's no value added, right? I'm not like inspiring them. I'm telling them jokes about dead babies or something, which is an interesting thing. The point I'm trying to make is
Wow.
that like
Dead
what,
babies.
no, I don't know. I just joke about some dumb shit, but, like at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
I could not have been like, no matter how funny I am, I could not have had the balls, the confidence, the doing it even though you're kind of scared mentality, the like, yeah, and you know what, the acknowledgement that that I had that ability, right? Because before Southwestern, I knew I had potential, but that doesn't mean shit. It's when I went out there, I sold 4,000 units, I made 20 grand my first summer, and I was like, I chose that thing that was hard, and I did good, which is a different type of confidence, right? Because you're like, I've done it, right? All the other things in my life, my parents chose for me. I had heart surgery. We moved from Colombia, and I didn't choose that. I had to just deal with it, right? But this is the first time I did something that I said, this is hard, and I could choose to not do this, or I can go try something hard, give it my all, fail or win, but fucking do it, right? And people don't do that. They don't choose to do that, right? Things
Yeah.
happen to them. They don't make it happen to them so they can learn.
I think Tony Robbins says, what is it? Live a, man, what is that? I mean, I think we talk about within Southwestern too. It's like, a great salesperson like doesn't let their circumstances determine like who they are. It's like how they respond to the circumstances,
Yeah.
the uncontrollable things that are thrown their way or whatever, right?
Yeah. And even in that comedy, like I would not have known to say to myself, to even think of self-talk, which is the thing we learned in Southwestern. I had never done it until Southwestern, to say, hey man, it's scary to get on stage in front of 50 people and try to make them laugh out of nowhere for no reason. Dude, it's scary.
Yeah, man.
But action cures fear, like, right? And you say that to yourself, and it triggers this like switch in your head that you're like, I fucking got this. And it goes from like you did it to like you excelled at it, right? Because of that attitude.
100%.
And everything in my life that's gone well could be traced directly back to, I mean, I had that potential, but it was Southwestern that like made me harness it and be able to effectively like communicate and make a friend and like all this shit. Like people are like, oh, you're extroverted. No, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with just, I know what to do because I did it, 12,000 times for 12,000 doors over 4 summers. Yeah, totally.
And that's the crazy part, right? Is like that. It's like it's almost like you can't like just pick out one thing, right? Yeah, self-talk for you or whatever. But man, it's like this belief in yourself, like what you talk about, like life isn't happening to you; it's happening for you, right? But then it's also like that thing of like, yeah, you've knocked on so many doors. Like I made a fool of myself, man. I remember like doing like stupid shit at doors where like I'm like throwing books around, like selling flying books, like whatever, I'm juggling books, like just because I'm like trying to have a good time because this first year behind me is just so down on their summer or their day. And you're just doing like the dumbest things, and this person lets you inside a house. Like I'm thinking about like I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I'm just thinking about this time Sarah Majeski was following me, which was Sarah Nannini. For some of you guys, believe it or not, Sarah, I said your first and your last name together the right way this time. But she was following me, so I recruited Sarah to come sell books. And I remember like, man, I don't remember who it was. It was like this Asian lady, and I hope you're watching this because you'll laugh. But she was just like, she could barely understand me, and I'm just like having like crying, laughing, almost like I knew she wasn't gonna buy, but I'm like getting on my hands and knees, like just buy these books, and like doing like whatever it takes. And I'm just like, let me in your house, and like like just desperate, like having fun with it, right? I actually wasn't like that desperate, but it was just like Sarah was like crying, laughing. I'm crying, laughing. I'm like, please, just the Mufus, and I'm like tossing the books at her. I'm like, you want it, I'm just like whatever, having a great time, making a fool of myself. But who cares, right? And you've done that enough to where you're like, who cares? I might make a fool of myself. And guess what? Maybe one person in this freaking auditorium or building laughs at my jokes, or maybe they don't. But guess what? I can come on next week and there might be 10 people next time. And guess what? Maybe it's a different audience and they all laugh, right? But that's okay, because that's how you learn, right? So it's because you're willing to go do those things that other people aren't. And you're understanding, the stuff that works and the stuff that doesn't, right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's fucking... It's bananas the way that experience can do that for you. Like it just changed like in 3 months, man. Usually that kind of growth takes a long time, but something about just putting in the effort in that schedule that you come out this other human being on the other side, like you, but like more polished and more introspective you. It's fucking cool. It's a cool move.
Dude, I'll look back on, Southwestern. I literally think Dylan and I DM about it like all the time in our Slack. And we talk about it too. And we're just like, man, how the hell did we do that? Like, sometimes I'm just like, what in the world inside me was like, I'm going to go knock on doors for 80 hours a week in a different state, away from all my friends in the summer, whatever. And it's just like, Man, I just think how dumb I would have been if I didn't do it. When I look
Yeah.
back, like, man, I can't believe I almost, not that I almost didn't, but it's like, imagine if I wouldn't have done it. Like, I don't know what I'd be doing. Like, man, my whole entire mindset shifted. And I mean, sometimes like I talk to people, even on the phone today, or like whoever I meet at a bar or something, and then you start talking about your experiences and what you learned and what you've taken away. Or like I met someone at a conference and they're 20 years older than me, and they're like telling me like, I didn't learn that until I was 35. Like the stuff that is this
Yeah.
wealth of knowledge. And I'm just like
Yeah,
if
man.
I knew the things you knew at your age in your 20s,
Mhm.
and like that's the thing that it just accelerates people. Cause like, not that if you don't sell books, you can't be successful. Cause I think that's really
Right.
stupid,
Yeah.
for people to say. But, it's just the thing that Southwestern does is you learn all this really hard stuff that some people, it takes them until their late 30s or their 40s to like learn it. Right. Cause they finally get that good manager, or, they're finally in realizing like they got to choose their path and find a way. Right. They
Mhm.
weren't in this environment that just opened the floodgates saying like, hey, the world is yours if you just want to take it. Right.
Yeah.
They don't realize that until it's too late.
It is it's a place you want to go to. It's an experience you want to have if you are ready to just not be a kid. And you still are a kid. There's still not in this.
Hey,
I
you
what
hang
I
out with a
mean,
bunch of book kids, you're definitely a kid. You know how that goes.
yeah,
This is
yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, if you want to start figuring
yeah.
out, like, if you commit to doing a summer and you work the work and you do the things, that's you saying, I'm ready to just upgrade. I'm ready to renew. It's when you've been putting off your phone upgrade because it takes a while to turn off and you can't stand it. So you wait like 2 weeks after that new iOS comes out, and then finally you're like, fine, boom. That's what it's like. And you're like, oh my God. It's when you really hit it hard and you commit to going for it, yeah, it's what makes you go Super Saiyan. You know what I'm saying? It's what makes you next level shit. That's dope, man. I like that. I like that. What would you say was like the hardest, or like the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome to like figure that out in that summer? Was it like, because you said it was a switch and you talked about the attitude and stuff, but like, was there a moment where you're like, fuck this, Chad, I'm gonna be the new Chad? Like, do you remember the day or something like that, or was it more like gradual?
I
i'm,
kind of
I'm
do.
asking
It wasn't
I'm
like,
asking because I remember my days, so I want to see if it's the same
yeah,
for
no,
you.
I do remember the day. I mean, I was actually talking to Maurice about this the other day. Because we were talking about like, you know, all sorts of stuff. But anyway, so we went on this huge tangent, and then I'm just trying to bring it back. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I remember telling Maurice on the phone. I'm like, dude, I remember like the day where like it clicked for me. I remember the conversation that we're at this restaurant, and it was like this deck outside, and then there was like railings and all this stuff, and you and I were like chilling, just talking and about goals for the summer, like basically having a PC, but it wasn't a planned PC. At least I didn't think it was, and maybe it was. I don't know. But
Feels like.
I mean, once you're a manager, it's all business, right? I don't know, but I'm just messing. But yeah, I just remember, I remember that conversation, and just like setting like, hey, like, you're more than you think you are, and like, really, what do you really want? Like, really diving into like, what is the thing? Like, what do you really want to gain out of the summer? And it wasn't money, because I think my first summer it was like, I want to make money so I can buy this and do that. Like,
Right.
that's like the immature you coming into selling books, because you're thinking that, right? It
Yeah.
was more deeper than that. It was, I remember Virgie Sanford and I having a conversation, and it was like becoming like I want to be a man of my word was like a big thing that stuck with me.
Mm.
And so like, and that was a lot of it was also like proving to like, hey, Maurice, like, I'm actually going to go do the job. You can know that I'm going to do the job every day. Like it was like one that like my managers trust me, sure. But it was also like part of it for me was like, I trust me. Right. Like if I say I'm going to do something, like, it's set in stone, it will happen, hell or high water, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a lot of the conversations that I had, whether it was with Maurice and then Virgie, like leading up to that summer, that just like stuck with me. And then, just like those were the things that were like in my mind when I had those moments of like, this is still really hard. You know,
Yeah.
it's really hot outside in Texas in the summer.
Yes.
Like, parents don't let their kids play outside because it's too hot, you know, but you're selling books door to door, you know. And so like I had all the excuses in the world not to have a good summer, you know. But I was like, nope, I'm a man of my word. I do the things I say I'm gonna do,
Whoa.
right? All these different things that just like
Mm.
kind of like kept me grounded. But a lot of it was from that conversation that I had with Maurice, and then that carried over to, you know, other conversations. But
Mm.
yeah, no, I remember it, man. It's still like it was like a very like serious one, and it was just like, who do you want to be,
Yeah.
man? Like, this is, I'm not saying that your summer is going to mean you're going to be successful or not, but you know, the way that you finish the summer and the way that you know, obviously work through it is going to determine who you are as a person. I believe that it wasn't about the result of how many units you sold or whatever, but it was ultimately about like, did you do what you said you're going to do, and did you put in the work? Like, that says a lot, like, you know, because life's going to be really, really hard. And that was like things that Aaron always said to me. Life's going to be hard, whether you're in a relationship, you got kids, right? You know,
Mhm.
things are not going to be always so fun as we see on TV, right? You know,
That's right.
so
Damn.
I was just having a moment of thinking back to Dan Moore Life 101. I remember those life.
GRS.
Yeah, dude, and I remember him telling the story about like when he was like so excited about having a kid, and like his wife
Yeah.
was like not super excited. She's like, "Have you thought about this, Dan? Like, what if your kid, you know, comes home and they're 15 and they're pregnant? Like, you know, like all those conversations of like, oh, that's," and he's like, "Oh, I just imagine all the good things, you know."
Yeah.
It's like, how do you handle that stuff? And so like those are the things, and maybe that's part of Southwestern's brainwashing. I don't know, but like those are the things, right? That like you hold on to, and you're like, this can help you determine that stuff, right? Um,
Yeah.
so like held on to that.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, man, you just said a lot of stuff right there that it made me think of some stuff. Have you seen this total, might seem like a tangent, but it
No,
is
you're good. You're
related.
good.
Have you seen Bad Boys 3?
I have not. No.
There's a scene where the guy that plays the captain, he's also the guy that plays Cypher in the Matrix with the goatee, the bald guy. That
Okay.
guy, he's the captain. He's talking to Will Smith. Um, and they mentioned his analogy of, I thought it was really good for like, and kind of deep for that kind of movie, but I was
Yeah.
like, damn,
Yeah.
all
I
right.
mean, yeah. Yeah. Sure.
And he goes, there's a guy that's going to this Asian dude, whatever, and he's going up this mountain, this monk, he's going up this fucking mountain. It's a very narrow path. And he sees his buddy just straight up on a horse, just hauling ass towards him. And it's a very narrow path. And he's like, what the hell do I do? What do I do? And he gets out of the way and the horse just goes by. And he like yells at his buddy, says, hey, where the fuck are you going? And the guy goes, ask the horse. And so the analogy is that like our fears and our like insecurities and like these fake things that we think that we want, or like like whatever things that we worship that aren't really helpful to us, that's the horse, right? And they're taking you somewhere that you don't want to go, so you have to like fucking own them, right? Because either they're going to carry you or you're going to have it like and use them and harness them to go back up the fucking mountain, right? um
Yeah.
and I thought that was like really deep of a story. I was like, god damn, dude. Like, and then, so then the question was like, for me, for my day, that was actually the question that I asked myself when it clicked for me, because I did really well, sucked bad mid-decade of the 2010s, not myself. And yeah, man, it clicked actually very like probably in the last 2 or 3 years, where I asked myself like, where the fuck am I going? Like, I read this book, Donald Miller's book, Scary Close, and talks about getting intimate with people and like how every relationship that you have with someone, marriage or just friendship, is going somewhere. So asking the question, hey, where are we going? And is it the same direction that we wanted to? And so but I asked myself that, I'm like, where am I going with myself? Like, how do I treat myself? And I went back to Southwestern and I'm like, how do I talk to myself? Like, if the person that is talking to myself in the morning was next to me, I'd fucking punch him in the face. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and so
man.
then that's when it clicked for me. It was that day. And I was like, and I was sitting in my apartment by myself, I fucking bawled my eyes out. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go the other way. And here we are. I mean, I'm still figuring it out. There's still like growth to be had. Obviously, I don't have all the answers, but yeah, it started because of I started doing the stuff that Southwestern taught, have 21 days to form a habit and killing the bad ones with first and then replacing them with new ones and all these little things. And it goes back to Southwestern. And fucking here we are, man, like having this conversation. I don't know you that well, but
Yeah,
we can
man.
still connect on this because of Southwestern.
Yeah. No, and it's true, man. I mean, that's the reality, man. You're right. You're right 100%. So I hear you.
Wow. Good stuff. Man, this has been a good episode. This has been a good episode. Okay, I got one question for you, or we can go to the pony story. I'll let you choose. But I want to hear
question, and then we'll hit the pony story. How about that?
Okay, I want to hear about ways you had fun in the book field. You kind of alluded to some of them, but did you ever do anything like fucking crazy or fun, like or maybe just stuff you enjoyed to do, like the bigger and better game or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, bigger, better game. Honestly, like, I mean, I played it, but it wasn't like my, it wasn't like this game, and I was like, oh man, like I never had this crazy story where like I brought home a couch or something, or like a car. But I mean, that game was fun. I mean, let's see, what other games did they play? I mean, there was always the like 3 o'clock like thing that like everybody inside, what do they call them? 3 o'clock caper. I don't know, what was it called?
Yeah, 3 o'clock rolls or something. Or like we all
Yeah,
roll
something
or we
like
all
roll
yell
call.
or
I don't know,
something.
but like
Yeah.
whatever. And where everyone did like the same thing at 3 o'clock. I did that every now and then. And then you just
A
like
good one.
wait, like you're just like I mean, but man, I having fun for me was just like not caring at all, like
Oh
what
yeah,
anyone like. It was like I went into every day being like, cool, Chad, you're going to a place you've never been before, you're gonna go see people you're never gonna see again, all right? And who cares, they're gonna forget about you within 30 minutes after you leave anyways. And so
right.
for me it was just like I wanted to be like this like bright light of just like I love my life. This is great. And I mean, whether it was I was skipping across the freaking road because I knew that this like pissed off dad was watching me because he wanted me out in the neighborhood. I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna look like I'm just loving life. You just yelled at me. I don't care. Like I'm doing like cartwheels and like, in the middle of the street. Like I didn't care. Right. And so like for me, it was just like whenever some negativity was like thrown my way, it's just like, how can I make the best of this? And how can I just have fun and just like not let like, I think it was just because I was like, I'm really competitive in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to let you like your negative energy determine how I feel, the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so, that those kinds of things that I think back to is just like not giving any, giving any, F's or whatever. Right. So,
Yeah.
those are the moments that I like remember having fun. And then when first years, man, whenever you had first years following you, man, that was the best because
Yes.
you just man, you had someone to talk to all day,
Yeah.
and then on top of that, like you have someone to go grab your books in the car when you make a sale,
Yep.
whatever. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just fun to like show them like, hey, I just have a great time and I sell a lot of stuff because I have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a good time. I'd always like to be like, I have first year with me, be like, hi, my name is Andres, and this is Chad, and Chad had something to say to you.
Yeah, I remember the old.
Just wait.
I remember that, dude. I've done that too. Those are good ones.
Those are
Yeah,
so
man.
good. I
Or
always
like,
think,
or even just like you get in the door, you're like, hey, I got 5 minutes, go for the bag, whatever they
yeah,
teach you. And if you're inside, you'd be like, cool, hey, well, thanks for letting us in. Hey, Steve's gonna talk to you today. So and then you're like chilling, you're like, cool, I can finally give you feedback on a demo, because you haven't gotten inside a house in 3 hours, because how you're supposed to let them follow. Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's hilarious.
But yeah, that was, I mean, yeah, man, just good times. And this is not my, depending, it could be my pony story, but
I mean, if you got a couple, you can share. You got it.
got
You
a
can.
couple. So yeah.
Yeah, share
Any other
too.
questions you got before we dive into the pony stories, man?
Oh, I mean, I just don't know how much time you had. I know you mentioned you maybe like an hour, and I'm like, well, we're sitting here like.
Yeah, and you're like saying these things like, man, like the longest one is this long. They're typically this long. I'm like, nah, you'll got here in 30 minutes.
I mean, I'm telling you, everyone said that they wanted to do like an hour, and it ends up being like 2, always.
No, you're good, man. You're good. So, I mean, do you got any other questions? I mean, anything else you want to cover?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to go to the pony? I mean,
No,
you got
yeah.
a couple more.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about, like, to share a little bit about your book. You said you'd written a book and kind of like your authorship and how, how that's been impactful for you and stuff like that. That sounds pretty cool. Want to share about that?
Your book's coming out. Yours is an official book. So I have actually, Dylan, if he's listening, he'll know this. I got 3 books that I've written. One of them just needs to be published. So I have a couple. I can't say the names of them right now because they're not published yet, so I don't want to take my names. They're really good, but I have a co-authored book. So Breaking the Charts,
Okay.
How to 2x your sales in 60 days or less. And so highly recommend anyone that's looking for insight from sales team that crushed it. I mean, have you got the book or no?
No, I haven't gotten it yet. No. Are they supposed to send it to me?
Have you heard of it or no?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
Dylan talks about it every once in a while in his calls.
Yeah. I mean, really cool book, different perspectives of different people. We all wrote a chapter or two in there, and the book hit bestseller on Amazon, whatever. But it's just a cool book. I mean, we all talked about like, what is our secret thing? Like, what do you think the thing is that you do to like crush it at whatever you've done in your role? And so, if you're looking for insight on different authors or different salespeople and like their piece and their nugget, because maybe I listened to Andreas and I'm like, like I can see how that works for him, but that's not going to work for me. But maybe I listened to the guy next to him. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to do that and that'll work. Right. So I think there's about eight or 10 authors in that book that wrote some stuff. So there's something for everybody, which I think is huge. So I would definitely give it a look.
Yeah. Okay. So it's Breaking the Charts.
Breaking the Charts, how to 2x your sales in 60 days or less. So
how to 2x your sales in 6 by Chad Aleo and Dylan Barr.
You got it.
On Amazon.
You've got some other authors on there too, but yeah, man, it really good one. So my book will be coming out soon. So we'll do another podcast interview when I'm getting ready to launch that.
Yeah.
So I'm in the editing stage and Dylan's always like, man, get your book. Everyone is, but I'm just like, perfectionist, so it's coming.
You're telling me I'm going to write and publish a book in 2 months and you're out here like gagging on your second book, man. Come on.
I know. So
come on, man. Damn. Okay. So that's what you're and then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is, and we kind of started touching on this a little bit, but how would you describe like your overall like routine? Because here's the thing, and this is something I need to emphasize for anybody listening. You are very, very good at what you do, and it's obvious and it's clear that like there's like a certain method to this madness. Well, share a little bit about like your routine, your mentality, like before you go into a day of work, maybe during the summer, like where was your head at? What was your mentality? Was it more service minded? Was it more like because I said so mentality? That's like a different kind of, right? People do it for different reasons. People are like, oh, well, you do great things. So it's more selfless. Some it's more like, because I said so. So it's more like an integrity thing. What is your mindset when you wake up and before you hit that first call or before you knocked on that first door? Like, where were you at mentally? What were you doing?
Mm-hmm. Dude, I'm the hype man, right? I mean, you've listened to my calls. People tell me that like when I'm on a sales call with someone, like I get them jacked about whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So, I'm a big fan of, like, I tell people this all the time. Like when you're in sales, like you are your own coach. Like, sure, you got a manager that's there, but like at the end of the day, like you're spending time with you, like you're your coach. So, when I was selling books, I mean, like I had music I was listening to. I listened to the same song every single morning on the drive to my turf. That I just like my song, right?
What was the song?
And that was, what'd you say?
What was the song? Was it Eye of the Tiger?
No, it was not Eye of the Tiger. It was
Spice Girls. Tell me what you want. What you really want.
I don't know why I'm blanking on the name of that song. It was Imagine Dragons.
I feel like we can't play. I can't play it.
I'm going to tell you what it is right now. I'm just looking it up on Spotify, man. How great is it that we have all these things? So I like a couple of their songs, man. But it was like their first big one as I'm looking through here.
Believer?
No, it was their first one, man. Come on. I know people know what I'm talking about. It's like
oh, I know what you're
not Whatever It Takes. That's a good one. That's my song now. But
that's your morning song? That's what you listen to?
What do you say?
That's what Chad's listening to in the mornings when he's getting ready to call is Whatever It Takes.
Every morning. I mean, no. So Radioactive was the song. That was my third summer song.
Radioactive.
Yeah, dude.
That's right.
So that was like I don't know, just like I love that vibe. I love the song where it was like I'm radioactive, whatever, Yeah. And it's like welcome to the new age. So for me, it was like belief of like, man, like this is changed. Like, I'm not the old person. This is a new age, right? All this stuff. So like all that stuff just resonated with me, but it was just getting me in that mindset. Now today I don't listen to music every single morning. Okay. Sorry, I got my pet over here messing around. But no, it's more about, like, for me, when you get into like the real world, right? You're always finding like what are things that can keep me focused. So for me, it's more along the lines of like I listen to podcasts. I'm listening to something that keeps me super motivated, gets my head in the right space.
Right.
Daily Mind Medicine is a great podcast, a 4-minute podcast by Taylor Welch. I love listening to. He just talks about like
daily what?
Daily Mind Medicine. It's
I'm
like a
gonna put that on
5-minute
the
podcast,
chat.
and they put out a new one every single day. What do you say? Type it in the chat.
I'm gonna put it in the Facebook live so people can see it. Daily Mind Space.
Daily Mind Medicine.
Medicine. Sorry. Can you still hear me okay and everything?
Yep.
Okay. It said that I got logged out of my account on Zoom, so I don't know.
No, hey, still recording. So we're still talking.
Mind medicine.
But
Okay.
Daily Mind Medicine, Taylor Welch. Really cool. Really cool. I mean, he just talks like for 5 minutes, and he posts it every morning, and he just like gives you some nugget about like motivation, talks about some real stuff. I mean, it's just really good. I mean, so that's like my quick morning, routine. I listen to that as I'm eating breakfast or whatever. I would love to say that I work out first thing in the morning. I'm not that person. I usually work out in the middle of my day because I get a break. But yeah,
I see. Interesting. And so it's just more about like, so your mentality is, I got to do this because I said I would. It's like this, like.
So it's more of this. So for me, like like right now, my mentality is more of like, how do I get my mindset right so then I can help other people get their mindset right. So when I start my day, it's like, I need to get some energy from somebody else, or like hear something that's like really good, really positive, gets my head in the right space to where like I'm on their same level. Right. So then like when I get on a call with someone from a sales perspective, or maybe I'm making a business deal or something like that, like I'm like sharp, I'm there. Like I'm not just like I rolled out of bed, right? Like something intercepted the way that I'm feeling up until that moment. Right. So like it's a podcast, it's, maybe it is a song or something that just gets me like in the right headspace. Right. And that's a really good one. Daily Mind Medicine. I mean, some sort of podcast,
so cool.
Someone talking about goals or whatever, but like that stuff's real. I mean, I read a book for 30 minutes in the morning, stuff like that. Just like something that, like I said, brings me to like from here to here to get my day going. Right. Versus the like, get out of my day and read a book, or get out of my bed. Sorry about that. Get out of my bed and like get on a call. Right.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, that's good. I feel like that's something that's overlooked. People think that it's just like it is about the grind, but like you got to get your head right before you go into the grind. Otherwise the grind's like not as efficient.
Grind is just grind then, right? So it's more of like, I want to feel like I'm in control of my day, right? So in the beginning, like that's the most important, right? So you determine like what you're doing, where you're going. And like some of that stuff comes from Southwestern, right? Like they say, run to the shower, cold showers, whatever, or, be the first one at the breakfast spot, like read Og in the morning, right? So it's like taking control of your day, because like that's the only time that you have control. The rest of the world is asleep, right? So it's like, hey, I'm going to listen to my podcast. I'm going to maybe check through my emails. I'm going to read a book. Okay, I'm going to make breakfast where there's no other distractions, right? Like, man, when you have control in the beginning of your day, that way the rest of your day doesn't feel like you're just like, shooting a gun from your hip. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? Oh my gosh, now this email, now this one. And it's just like, just so much more at peace to start my day that way. Like knowing I know what's coming and what like the process I'm going through versus I just wake up and let the world happen to me. Right.
Yeah, that's genius, bro. This is like would have been one of the most like value-filled podcast episodes we've had so far. Number 20 is a banger, bro. You're making this a banger.
Number 20, baby. Let's go.
Number 20. Fuck yeah, dude. All right. So I think it's time now. I think it's time to go into these two stories. Or you still got two, right?
We got two stories, hey? We only go for 2 ponies.
I mean, you say you had multiple, so you feel free to share as many as you want.
I mean, man, it's not, I can give someone a great find away story. So I'm not, that one's good. Usually I give that one when I do like a keynote, right?
That one. I want that one at the end.
Okay. Okay. So we'll do that one. But this one, you already know this one, so I can't like make it more fun or funny. But
That's
you know,
fine.
when you're on the book field, obviously we've all got the cops called on us once. They call them blue light specials, right? You're in a neighborhood. Someone says like yada yada yada, like you yell at by some guy, you shouldn't be here. You have a permit to be here. Yeah, of course I got a permit. It's right here, buddy. Whatever. Well, I don't think you should be here because we don't accept those in this neighborhood, whatever. So the guy calls the
Yeah.
cops on me. I don't care, whatever. I just keep going knocking on doors in the neighborhood. Of course, the cop rolls up. I'm like literally approaching, literally about to get inside the house with this lady. And like, because the cop stops right there, she like looks at the cop. She's like, is that for you? And I was like, yeah, probably. She's like, yeah, like part of me really wants to like hear what you have to offer, but you should probably go talk to them first and then you can come back. And I was like, yeah, that's probably the safest thing. So I was like, I'll be back. And I'm like, damn it, like that guy, like, whatever. And so I go down there, I talk to the police officer, and just like your typical cop, nice lady. And she's like, how's it going? Like, what are you selling? I'm like, oh, I sell educational books, help kids with homework and all this stuff. And she's like, well, you got a permit on you? I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, she's like, well, can I see it? Look it up. Blah 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 blah. Looks up in the system. Okay, Chad. Well, you're good to go. And what did you say you sell again? And I was like, I was like, in my mind, like, okay, like, so what I sell. So I was like, I sell educational books to help kids like with schoolwork, whether they're young or they're in high school and they need help with their ACT. Like we help with all sorts of stuff, no matter the subject. And she's like, okay. She's like, you got anything for eighth graders? And I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, I do. And I was like, how about I was like, you mind if I just come sit in your front seat? And she's like, oh yeah, come on. And then like I literally sat in the front seat of the cop car. Okay. I wish I
Because why not?
and she's like, what do you got for like, eighth graders math? She's like, and I was like, we go to the demo and I'm like, what do you struggle with? She's like, math's so different than how like I learned it in school. My kid and I, we fight at the table. And I'm like, oh, this is so good, And I'm like, wow. And I'm literally like, just like turning the pages like they're gold, like they taught us. I just like drop them, like, and look at that, getting all whatever. And all of a sudden she ends up buying books for me. She didn't buy like the whole set, but she
The
bought
cop.
two math books, which is like $300 sale or something. And then she bought some ACT prep stuff. And so like that was a cool story, man. Like that
Hell
was
yeah,
like that
man.
moment where I was like, and I remember like, oh dude, I remember looking at the house after that, I was like, thank you. But like obviously he wasn't outside, but I'm like, yes. And like she's like, all right, Chad. She's like, you're doing awesome stuff. And I was like, hey, tell the other officers if they got interest, feel free to pull me over too. And she just laughed, But and I just
That's
kept on that.
awesome.
So that was like the fun like pony story, signing up with
Bro.
the officer. Yeah.
Dude, that's epic because like you could have gone back. Did you ever go back to that other lady's house, the main mom whose door you were at? You could have been like, hey, that cop? She bought.
Dude, see, like those things right there. I mean, you could have done that, but at the same time, it's like, man, we have so much mental energy in a day. And so in my mind, I'm like, it's not really worth it because I don't know. I mean, like, I'm sure part of my mind is like, I want to go show this guy and be like, hey, that cop just bought from me. Thanks, But it's just like, it's just wouldn't be worth it.
Oh
I
no.
want to, for sure.
No, I mean like the mom that you were with when the cop pulled up
Oh yeah,
originally.
dude. Oh yeah, 100%. And when I knocked on her door, she's like, "Yeah, we're just probably not interested." I was like, "Hey, well, she just bought from me," but she's like, "Yeah, I don't know." She's like sketched out or something. I was like, "Cool, no worries." Well, Officer Latoya, like, I don't know, that wasn't her name, by the way, but I don't remember. But yeah, anyway, she bought, like, she's cool. I was like, "Well, any other kids in the neighborhood next door? Cool, thanks, Stacy." Whatever.
Yeah, works fine. It's kind of wild to think that like before you get to the last story, it just made me think of this.
Yeah.
Like when you're good at sales, like when you're in sales like that, the idea that you're like you and I could both right now, if we wanted to, it might not be right away, but at some point tonight, still, we could go out into the neighborhood around us and have someone give us $500.
Yeah.
That's wild to think about. Right. And on the other hand, you and I right now, if we were like, hey, do you want to go make someone give us $4,000? Well, you and I possess the skill set and the ability, because we've done it, to be able to be like, we just got that person to give us $4,000. And an hour ago, they had no idea who we were. That's wild.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, like sometimes I get off phone calls even like still, and I've been doing this for like 3 years, and I'm just like, that person literally just gave me $10,000 in less than 40 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, shit. Anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, wild. That's wild to think about. Okay, so let's hear this keynote. Let's hear this fucking
This
then
is
they
not
bought
this
story.
banger story. It's a feel good story, right? So
Let's hear it. Let's feel it. I want to
it's
feel
not
good,
like,
Chad.
what is that?
I want to feel good.
Gosh, dude, I got a couple of those. Yeah, I mean, this is more of like your find a way story, right? So
Okay.
it's real. I mean, this when I had my first opportunity to speak in front of like 1,200 people, Author Advantage Live. I don't know if you've heard much about that, but
Not much, no.
yeah. So I got to speak in front of 1,200 people, talk about sales, like how to sell their offer and all this stuff. And I went through like my history, right? I went through like, hey, I wasn't the best salesman in the beginning, but then like I got really good and I developed this skill set and all this stuff. And I remember like this turning point, in my third summer. And so when you talked about turning points in the aspect of, hey, when was it going into your second to your third summer? Like, when was that time that you just decided you're going to go do it? Well, in my third summer, I had a turning point where I got to determine if I was going to be that guy that I turned into, or if I was going to be somebody else. Okay.
Oh.
So we're about 2 weeks into the summer, man. I get like chills still talking about the story because it's whatever. We're about 2 weeks into the summer, and this new kid is following me, whatever, and he's having a really, really tough, week. It's like 3 weeks in or something like that. Week 2, he just didn't sell anything. So like obviously didn't work. And it's like, let this guy following you. You're crushing it, and I've been like crushing it. And just a normal day, 11 o'clock rolls around. Okay. And I knock on this door. My first year's behind me. And there is this big burly dude that just comes to the door. Okay. Like big dude, like probably 6'4". I mean, like guys. And I'm just like, how's it going? And I like good base. I'm just like, hey, what's going on? I'm Chad. I'm with, Southwestern, blah, 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 blah. Do my approach and all this stuff. And the guy just like stands there and just like looks at me, like doesn't like face doesn't do anything, like just like staring at me. And I'm just like, cool. Well, I'm helping kids with schoolwork. Do you have any kids? Is that something you're interested in? And the guy just like tells me, like, just looks at me, he's like, get the fuck off, my property. And I'm just like this was like intimidating. Like it was just like this thing, like he didn't say anything. And I'm just like, all right, man, like not a big deal. Like I'm just a college kid, like selling kids books, And so like obviously that didn't bother me. And then I start walking away. And the guy like comes and starts walking. I'm like walking away. You hear him slam his door. He's like, get the fuck out of here. And I'm just like, kind of like shaking a little bit. So like, what the hell? Like this guy's like walking towards me. I'm just like kind of like walking towards my car. And this guy's probably like 30 feet behind me. And like he just starts like screaming at me.
Shit.
And he's just telling me like, get the F out of this neighborhood. Like, he's like, I know. He's like, and I'm like, and like telling me like, if you don't leave, I'm gonna beat your ass. And like he's like, I'm gonna wipe that smile off your face. Cause I'm just like trying to like have fun. This first year's following me. I'm like, dude, it's not a big deal. Like, and this guy like, and I'm just gonna go to the next house. And like I start going to the next house and he's like screaming. I'm like, get the F back in your car. And like I'm like intimidated, right? I think anybody would be. And
it's scary.
I'm like, dang. Okay. Actually, now that I remember this, I did not have a first year with me. Okay. Now that I remember the story, there was no first year with me. So I'm by myself.
Oh, okay? So you're alone.
So I'm alone. Yeah. So I was thinking of a different story. Okay. But no, this is like, I'm by myself. Okay. And this is my third summer. And 3 weeks in, whatever. Guy's screaming at me. And I'm just like, he's like, don't go to that next house. Like, get in your car, get out of this effing neighborhood. And I'm just like, dude, like, I'm just gonna go to a different neighborhood. Like, this guy's crazy. And like, literally get in my car. He comes up to my door, spits on my windshield. Okay. Tells me to get the F out of here. And like, I like cracked my window. I was like, yo, I'm gonna call the cops. He's like, I am the fucking cops. He's like, you want me to fucking arrest you right now? And I'm like shook. Cause I'm just like, what the, cause I'm like, I don't know if this guy's really a cop or not. And then I just drive away. Okay. And then he gets in his car and follows me to make sure I leave this neighborhood. And then I get on, like, I just kept driving. Then he eventually like gets away from me. So like, I'm like shook, right? I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, dude. The hell was that?
This stuff's never happened. This 6'4" guy's like chasing me, like whatever. Okay. Just whatever. And so I'm just like shook. And he wasn't chasing me. He just made sure I left the neighborhood, right? Because he's like protecting his neighborhood, whatever. And I end up just like driving off and I go to this other neighborhood and like I just remember like parking my car. And I was just like, I was like so shook by it. I was like literally questioning like everything that I told you. Like I had this belief to be like man of my word and like all these things that we talked about earlier. And I'm like, why the heck am I out here? Like, this is dumb. Like, why am I a door-to-door salesman? Like, why the heck would I want to do this? Right. And sometimes people have those feelings when they're in sales, right? They've never
Right.
done it before. Maybe they're in a new job and they like, why did I think I could? Okay. And I'm like, all these things are going through my mind. And I'm like, all right, like I'm obviously having one of those moments I talked about in sales school, like call your manager, call Aaron, doesn't answer. I'm like, sweet. The one time I want to call Aaron doesn't answer my phone. I never called my managers. So I'm like, all right, well, let's go to the next one up. The next head John show. I'm like, I'm gonna call KJ. KJ doesn't answer either. I'm just like, dude. I just remember like sitting in my car, probably like for like 15, 20 minutes, just like considering like literally just going back into my old habits of like, I'm just gonna,
Fuck
be off
around.
schedule, go home, whatever. And I had this kind of this moment and I was like, like I either can go home, let this affect me, and then these types of situations are just going to affect me the rest of my life. And that was like literally what I was thinking. Or I was like, I can do what they tell me to do and just go to the next
Go to the
house.
next door.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, just go to the next door. And I almost went home. I was like, almost like, screw this.
Oh shit.
And like, this is my third summer, man. I'm like, dude, like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, and I just sat there and like, then I just like, well, screw it. I told myself I would. Like I told Virgin, all these people, I was a man of my word. Like, I'm going to do this. Right. And so like, I did not want to. I grabbed my book bag. I go to the next house. And you probably know the ending, right? Knock on the door. Super nice family, right?
Wait, for real?
Yeah. Make me lunch. You're right. I mean, super nice. Kids need everything. Okay. I didn't sell the bag, but I almost did. And like, just like this lady, I was just so thankful that I came by. And it was just like, Chad, I can't believe like you came by. Like, man, like our kids have been struggling in math for years. And, David, he's trying to get into a good college and like had no idea like how to prepare for the ACT and like all this stuff. And you're just like, what I mean? Your mind's like kind of blown. And it was just like,
dude,
I remember
that's
getting back in
God.
my car and I'm just like thinking to myself, and I'm like, man, I could have went home or I could have just kept going. And it was literally the next house I stopped at. It was in a random neighborhood. Cause I was like, I gotta find, like, I just like went somewhere. Cause it was like, I gotta be away from that guy. Right. Yeah. And they bought. And so like, that was like a big, a big turnaround. Right. So, and it was just a big reminder of like, obviously not everybody's going to get what we do. And like, not everybody's going to like what you do, but like, hey, our job is to find the ones that do, those kinds of things. And it was just a big, obviously a big kind of like whatever pony story, whatever you want to call it. But it just kind of set the tone for the rest of my summer.
Wow. That's one of the better funny stories you've had on this whole cast, man.
Well, but the one, if you do want to hear the one, I appreciate that. But if you do want to hear the one with the first year that was following me, I can tell you that one. That was the one that I thought I was going into. So
okay, let's do it.
I got one more.
The one more mentality, dude.
All right.
Well, hold on, pause. Let me reflect on that real quick, because that was, for anybody listening that might have missed what like really happened there, or like if you're listening and you didn't sell books, because this is a story that's familiar with some people, especially if you did well selling books, like decently okay or better selling books. We all have that story where it's like, if I hadn't gone to that house, like, because on the other hand, like to that mom, you were a godsend. Like she was probably, when people buy like that and then they tell you, I'm so glad you showed up, that means that they were like for months, maybe for a few days at least, or at least once in their like recent memory, they thought to themselves, dear God, how am I going to help my kids with this, with this? There's some families that I sold to, like maybe they didn't use the books. Maybe this bought it because they like, but there were some families that for sure bought because they needed me, and like, totally. and they're using it to this day, right? Sometimes some of them will still mess, well, not anymore really, but for a few years after I sold, they were still like messaging me like, dude, I hope you're well, but that being said, like on the other end of that, right? Because you said you did what you said you were going to do, because you became a man of your word, your integrity was so pure to yourself, that you changed their lives, like, right? Like the impact that you've had on that family is immeasurable,
For sure.
because you said this and then did it. And it's just that simple, right? It's because your summer would have been derailed if you hadn't done that for you on your end. Like you wouldn't be here. No fucking way.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, yeah, you think about like, and it's not so much about like the situation. It was like it didn't matter what the situation was. Like let's just call that guy, that 6'4" burly dude, like adversity, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like everyone's gonna get some of that, whether they're selling books or in life. And like what we talked about earlier, it's not about what happens to you, it's how you respond, right?
Yeah.
The uncontrollable things that are thrown your way is like going to
Yeah.
determine like who you are and what comes next, right?
Yeah. And that's wild. Well, and to me, like in a way, like honestly, it's because of that guy. That was the first domino. Because here's the thing: the summer was going to be hard anyway. But if that guy had never yelled at you, he would have said no. You would have got back in your car. You would have got to the next house. You would never have met that family, and you would have never had to make that choice. You've never would have been pushed to the point of like, literally, this is it for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like you would have had a normal summer. Like maybe if that guy hadn't been home, you would have just kept going. You would have had a good summer. Would you be this man? I don't know. Like, because that guy drove you to that choice, to that point of you either break here or you break out, like,
Yeah.
And you did. He gave you that opportunity to have that choice for yourself to then change the lives of the family that you talked to, but then you.
Dude, and your point that you just made is huge. Like some people that are like listening to this, I mean, if you're spiritual or whatever, I believe in God and all this stuff. And
Same.
And for me, it's like what you just said when you say gave you the opportunity. I'm a huge believer that like when like we pray, like I feel like God gives us these opportunities. Okay, like I don't know if I pray for like a ton of money, like I don't think I'm just gonna like wake up one day and then there's gonna be like $1 million in my bed next to me, right? I believe like if I pray for like, hey, I want to be wealthy, I want to impact people or whatever. Like I feel like God's gonna give me those opportunities to do that stuff, right? And so just like when you said opportunity, it's just like, man, like, yeah, that was an opportunity that like I had to finally overcome this thing that literally was the thing that held me back for the last 2 summers, right?
Yeah.
Nuts.
It's wild. It reminds me of Scroll 10 in Augmentino. This is so meta.
It's gonna be an SPS book club book. I'm gonna make it happen.
Dude, can I do that? Can we do that for real? Yeah. Dude, I can't believe that they don't read it. And so this is it right here. I was gonna, it talks about that in the, do you still read Og, by the way?
There's been like passings in like time that I've like come across a scroll or something. We've shared a couple of scrolls in SPS a few times, but yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Read it. Like I don't like open it up and I'm like going back to it or anything like that. Like it's my Bible or something.
Yeah,
I've read it a lot of times for sure.
Here it is. I do not ask for gold or garments. It's from Scroll 10 when he's doing the prayer at the end. He goes, I ask not for gold or garments or even opportunities equal to my ability. Instead, guide me so that I may acquire ability equal to my opportunities. That's what that was. God gave you the ability to deal with the opportunities that he gave you.
Yeah.
Right. He gave you the ability to acquire, so they were equal to your opportunities. He gave you this giant opportunity and then gave you that ability to do it. That's deep. I just had to point out before you go to this crazy ass story, because that was like when in my mind, when you told me about that guy, I thought it was going to be like you turned around and then you sold the guy and like you diffused him. That would have been a crazy story too. But no, it was what really happened there was that guy made you make that choice, or gave you the opportunity to make that choice. Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
And like that's when you think, and like there's a mindset shift, right? Is like life doesn't happen to me, because I could have been like, man, poor me, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, this sucks, I'm done. Okay, but I was thinking like it's like that mentality of like life happens for me, right? And like what you just said, like that guy gave me this opportunity to go live into who I really wanted to be, which is like this problem solver, which is like this person that like overcame adversity, But I'll shift into this last story and then we'll call it.
That's good.
This one's not like anything crazy. It's more of like a find a way story, but I think it's just a really good one. And this was when somebody was following me. So I was getting my stories kind of like mixed up. And this is actually the one that I keynoted. That one I gave you is one that's always stuck with me too. But
That's good.
But
That's good.
this one was more of like halfway through the day. I mean, like I've been having a good day. I think I sold like, actually I didn't even sell anything that day yet. So it was like probably like 11 o'clock or that morning. Aaron calls me and like, I know we're not supposed to have our phones, whatever, but I was a C contract. I could control it. You know, I didn't need to throw it in my trunk.
Yeah.
He just said, hey, is it cool if, you know, this person comes and follows you? Like, obviously you've been crushing. I think it's like 4 or 5, maybe it's 7 weeks into the summer or something like that. My 3rd summer. So like, obviously I'm crushing it, you know, based on what I told you my numbers were to finish, but like, you know, I'm crushing it. So like this guy's like having a hard time, having follow you, whatever, hasn't sold anything in like a week or something like that. So comes to follow me, gets around there around like 2 p.m. And before he shows up, like I ran these really cool people in like Big Brick. And I'm like, oh, this mom, like so great, knew everybody on my list, set an appointment. I'm like, sweet, 6 o'clock, boom, dad's home. Set another appointment with another one that's like an 8 o'clocker. And then I set another one that's like a 9 o'clock appointment. I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna close at least one of these. Like he's gonna see a sale. Aaron's like, just show him to sell something. And anyways, kid follows me. We have a ton of fun. I mean, like he's obviously down, moping around, and like I'm just having a blast, like doing the thing, like throwing books to him, like you know how people say I'm selling flying books or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, doing whatever, just have a good time, like cheer this guy up. And day goes in, I'm like, all right, like haven't sold anything, and I'm like, usually I have like maybe a couple sales, like just like small stuff to like stay-at-home moms, you know, or whatever, throughout the day. But end of the day starting to roll around. I'm like, all right, like we got these appointments coming up. So I go to that 6 o'clock appointment, you know, get inside the house. Husband's not home yet.
God damn it, Dad.
He's loving what we're selling and whatever. Husband comes home and just like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Chad. I'm the book guy. And like, he wasn't like a super big dick to me, but like, he was not pumped that I was there. And so she's like, she like goes and talks to him and like, she's like, so like, husband, I mean, I apparently had a bad day at work. Can you just come back tomorrow? I told him like that this is really good. We got to hear it because like Karen bought it or whatever. I'm like, all right, fine. You know, so I'm like, cool, not a big deal. I'm like, dang it. All right, good thing we got another one. So next appointment, 7, whatever time it was, rolls around. Nobody's home. They you know, it was a suicide call, right? You set an appointment, they're not there, and you're like, dang it. Okay, so we start cold calling, and I'm like, all right, so I made a sale, and I'm like, dang, I need to see this guy's like, I can just see him like the night's getting darker, like slouching in his chair, you know, like you can't do it, I can't do it, you know, and I'm just like telling this kid, like, dude, it always happens, like it always does. I don't know when or where, and it's like 8:30 or 8 o'clock, and so we, you know, whatever. 9 o'clock rolls around. I'm like, tell this guy it always happens. I was like, we got a great appointment. We go to this house at 9. Freaking awesome, stellar demo. These people are so cool. They feed us both dinner, and this guy's in sales, and the wife's just so cool. And like they knew everybody on my list, everyone on my friends list. And you're like, all right, this is, you know, hitting this
Gotta be.
And they're just like, Chad, this is so great, man. We've had so much fun hanging out with you. And like, I'll tell you everything you need to know about the neighborhood, but I'm gonna be like really real with you. And this is like after like an hour and a half, because like cool people you spend a lot of time with, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you think they're gonna buy, right?
Yeah.
And there's like, I'm gonna be really honest with you, Chad, like these are cool books, but like we really don't need them, you know? And I'm like, and I was like, damn. And at this point it's like 10:30. And or like 10:30. And so I'm like, dang, and this kid's just like, I'm like, it always happens. And I'm like starting to believe myself, like, maybe it doesn't always happen, like, you know, whatever. And I look down at my gas manometer and my gas is low. And I'm like, shit, like, you know, because I want to keep knocking late, like lights were still on, you know, at people's porches. And so I'm like, all right, we got to take a detour. We're going to the gas station. We go to the gas station and filling up gas in my car. And my first year's just like chilling, and you know, first year's just chilling in the front seat, whatever. And as I'm filling up my car with gas, I'm just like getting ready to like put the, you know, thing in the thing and close the gas, you know, whatever knob. And I see this van with a guy that's trying to change a tire, and changing a tire. And I'm like, all right, like when I was in high school, I used to be like a tire tech at like this place called Tasmanian Tire, and I used to change tires. I was like, I can probably go help this guy out. Like, and so I go over to the guy. I'm like, hey, do you need any extra help? I see you're trying to change this tire. We get talking, and he's like, yeah, I'm on a family vacation. Like, we're not really from here. We're just trying to get home. And I'm like, cool. Well, I used to change tires all the time. Like, I know how to do this, you know, whatever. So I help him change his tire, and we get talking, and he's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm from Michigan. Like, I sell educational books. And, you know, my first year just like sees me over there, whatever. He's just chilling.
No way.
And I was like, yeah, I sell educational books, help kids with schoolwork and like young kids learn how to read and whatever. And I noticed like his wife was sitting in the car, right? And while we were doing this, because she ended up coming out and like talking a little bit and like, you know, whatever. I'm like, yeah, I sell kids books, whatever. And they're like, oh, well, you know, and she's like, oh, what do you have? Maybe you can come by sometime and, you know, give us an appointment. And I'm like, oh, how old are your kids? She's like, well, we got a baby in the back. So maybe you probably can't give us anything anyways. And I'm like, well, I met
Actually,
I can. And so I'm at the gas station, dude, at 11 o'clock. And I'm like, well, let me show you what I got. And I was like, how old's your kid? And like, well, it's like, you know, whatever. Kid, like baby. And I'm like, gotta sell something. And anyway, sell like a my set, right?
yeah.
Colors. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you guys would be so good for color, picture, and words. And like, whatever, like you guys should just get this. And end up buying like a my set from me with Mufus, you know? And anyways, it was really funny. My buddy the first year sitting in the front seat. I'm like, hey, can you bring me some my set Mufu? He's like, huh? I'm like, yeah. And he's like,
You just
huh?
sold something.
And I'm like, I was like, yeah. And so he like goes back, he brings it up, and I was like, hey, this is, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's working with me today, and yeah, just want, you know, whatever. And so we give him their books, and it was like your classic find a way. And like, I had a great attitude all day. Like, I was like, it always happens. It always happens. And it was like, I don't know what it was, but you know, they ended up buying, like, it was a my set, whatever, but we made a set.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so this kid like is like on fire, like, how did you do that? We're in the gas station and it's 11:30. His mind's like blown. It didn't even matter like how much I sold or what it was. It was just the fact that he saw me sell something.
Yeah.
That like, you don't see people sell stuff, you know? And so like that was like one of those like find a way, like it always happens. And like, anyways, he ended up having like a decent summer after that. It was just like a big moment for him of just like, you know, like, hey, it can happen if you have a good attitude, you know? So yeah.
And he hit
Sizzler.
Sizzler.
Like the find the way story. So
dude, hell yes. What a way to end this.
I know.
Heck yeah. Good stuff, bro. Well, wow.
Documented. You never know who's going to watch these videos someday. So I had to share all three of them.
Yeah. You never know. Okay, so a couple of things then now. So a couple of announcements then. We have Dylan Barr coming up. Matt Atchison, we're booking him next. So he's going to be fun. I don't know. Do you remember Matt much?
Yeah, dude. I listened to Matt Atchison's Advanced Sales.
Yeah.
I want to like
Aloha. This is Matthew Atchison. Yeah. He's awesome. So he's coming up. I'm also working on a couple other folks. It's gonna be super fun to have other SPS people from here, and we have a ton of SPS guys. Obviously, Aaron, Matthew Mead, Josiah Fogel. Who am I missing? Maurice is now there. Dylan Barr, obviously. So that's exciting. And then, of course, I do want to shameless plug. My book is coming out on the 7th, so keep an eye out on that. And then we'll have you back on here when we're ready to plug your book that is going to be coming out. Do you want to commit to a date yet? Or is that too?
I mean, if I say it on this podcast, then I have to do it. So
right, that's what I'm
accountability and being a man of my word, right? So
that's what I'm saying.
It'll be done by August. Let's just leave it at that.
So on August, if you haven't been back on here, and it's September, I'm gonna let people know.
Making it a minute, so it'll be done. So
it'll be done. All right, there it is.
Cool, man.
Yeah. Wait. You cut out there. Did you mention Dylan? You cut out there.
Yeah, Dylan now knows the date. So
Oh, August. So I'll let him know.
Like, get it out sooner, but hey, let's just do that. So
cool, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for this. This was fun. I appreciate your time, and I know we went a little over the expected time, but it was definitely worth the conversation. And yeah, I feel like this is a really valuable one for us. So thanks so much.
Cool, man. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Peace. See you in the next one.